Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2022 Oshkatch World Cup Qualifier Results and Round of 32 Mappool Showcase. I'm Doland, and to start you off with the qualifier results, I'll be joined by JB Hyperion and Sekre.
Hello, hello.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
Another year upon us, 37 teams, 37 countries, awaiting to find out their placement, and we will have our matchups to start off the tournament next week.
Yeah, as Dolan said, we're going into round of 32, so unfortunately 5 of our 37 teams that participated in the qualifiers will not be participating to the knockout stages, and we're going to start with them, the lowest ranked teams across the qualifier showcase first, and then gradually work our way up to number 1, the team that did the best.
Sounds like a plan. Well, I guess without further ado, it's time to find out who's going to the Oshkatch World Cup this year. In the first year, we have qualifiers.
Yeah, it did come kind of a bit later than what we expected. We kind of thought it would come last year, but we got it this year and starting it off pretty strong. We're going to come win our first team, though. Sadly, there does have to be a team that comes at the bottom, and this year it'll be Switzerland.
Yep, so the Swiss coming in at number 37. They did not score last on every single map. 35th on Nomad 2, 36th on Nomad 3, Hidden 1, and Double Time 2. But unfortunate for It's Joel there on the team, along with MC2B. We know he has been trying many years to get in, but unfortunately not this year.
Well, a good thing about qualifiers is it does still give some of these teams that have been around on the fringes of qualifying for a long time the chance to play, even if it is just a single map pool. So this is still a kind of step up in ability to play on a World Cup stage for Switzerland and some of these other teams. So it shouldn't be seen as a failure by any means. Coming 37th in a kind of field with some of the countries that are playing right now is still a really good feat. Like, these are not bad players by any stretch.
Yeah, and I also do want to say that on stream it does say that MC2BP is ranked 230, but that's actually his Tiger rank. So some people might be saying, wow, how could a team with 158 and 230 come in 37th? But just making sure that visual error is cleared up for everybody.
Yes, if you have a higher rank in another mode, it will display that rank on the client. But anyways, we'll be moving on now to number 36. It is going to be Algeria. So Algeria coming in 36th place this year. Having a lot of 36th place finishes, they scored 35th on Hard Rock 2. That was their best performance overall. So going
once
over
again,
the
country in a similar situation to Switzerland. First time ever really getting a chance to compete at a Catch World Cup. The players at their disposal, again, shouldn't be seeing this as a failure by any stretch. It would always have been quite a challenge for them to qualify, but they put up a pretty solid showing, definitely not too far off the back of some of the other teams, and hopefully a lot of lessons learned going forward for future, more successful campaigns next year.
That's exactly right, and they know exactly where they need to improve, and it looks like they have 4 players they can carry forward with next year, so it'll be exciting to see how they do next year. We're going to be moving on to 35th place. It's going to be the Philippines. So
yeah, you can see that immediately. Last year's placing, 5th, seed 35th coming in this year, though. We kind of expected it coming in, looking at the predictions in our stream last week, but missing your kind of whole team from the previous year does tend to have this kind of effect on a team, unfortunately.
And despite that, though, JBH, they did manage to at least show a skill set that they were most proficient in was hidden. 33rd overall in the hidden department, and their best score overall being 31st on that hidden 1 map. But, yeah, that is all we're going to be seeing from them this year. Only the 4-man squad. We will now go to 34th place, and that is going to be New Zealand this year. So, New Zealand 34th on all nomads, very consistent there. 33rd on both Hard Rocks, that was their best area. And some notable players here, Lei, Nashiro. They've been around the community quite a bit.
Yeah, Lei was in New Zealand's CWC team in 2016, I believe, and this was kind of the first time they've qualified in quite some time. The rest of the players fairly new to the scene. Hopefully Lei can kind of mentor those guys and shape them for future years, for maybe a little bit more successful, because we are really, really close towards kind of the countries that did qualify, 32nd place upwards. There weren't a lot of percent max sum points dividing some of these teams.
And we're already seeing, if you notice that the scores already for New Zealand, the scores are starting to ramp up. There's multiple 2 million scores now across the board. And we only have one more country to cut before we get to the top 32. So, Sekiri, anything you want to add here about New Zealand?
Not much. Like you said, I hope these guys keep on continuing. They have a lot of new players, so they could hopefully bring it back up for next year, maybe qualify next year and see how it goes there.
Yep, they came close, just sadly not close enough. And now, in 33rd place, our last team cut is going to be Spain. Absolutely heartbreaking for them. But they did manage to put up a good performance in several areas, Hidden 1 being their strength, 30th place overall, with some solid no-mod scores as well.
Yeah, Spain, another team that haven't participated in the CWC in many, many years. Again, their whole roster completely different than it was back in, I think, 2015 when they last played. So not a lot of experience that could unfortunately be drawn on from kind of old players mentoring new players. But yeah, as you can say, like Hidden 1, 30th, Hidden 2, 32nd. So several picks that, like, individual maps that would have got them inside of the top 32. But of course, it's a team game and it's across a whole map pool. You've got to be kind of consistently good at everything in order to set good scores and of course qualify. So for definite, there's a couple of indicators of what Spain need to work on for next time. Some very encouraging signs.
Absolutely. And well, I guess with that, we will now move on to the countries that have qualified. So, qualifying for the World Cup in 32nd place is Israel. They were seeded 33rd. Oh, wait, that's right. There were no qualifiers last year. That's just the bug, or the placeholder. But Israel qualifying with consistent no-mod scores here. 30th on everything. 29th on Hard Rock 1.
Yeah, something that I do want to point out is the 29th on Hard Rock 1 is actually 2.5 million. And that's decently high considering we're looking at the bottom of the teams that qualified. But even then, that's still relatively high. You got to remember, an FC is 1.12 million around that. So if they get 2.5 million, that's pretty decent.
You're putting some fear into the hearts of everyone who didn't vote option 1 in Survivor.
Maybe.
maybe. And you see that they barely make it with that Hidden 1 score. They did struggle on Hidden 1, but their other scores in other mod brackets able to carry them to that 32nd seed. So congratulations, guys. You're going to the World Cup.
Yeah, their first ever appearance at a World Cup either, which is really cool.
That's also very notable too. First time they've ever had a team in catch. So moving on to 31st is going to be our good friends Portugal, JB Hyperion.
Yeah, Portugal haven't appeared since 2017. Triss and Demigod Yoxide appearing from that tournament. So it's been a little bit of a time since they've participated. Doing really, really good on Hidden 2. 24th, definitely punching well above their weight. And they're 25th on No-Mod 3 as well. So definitely a team of No-Mod enjoyers, it seems. They kind of consistently did better on better on the converts rather than the specifics throughout each of these mod pools. And definitely a team to kind of concern when there are lots of converts on the table in the later rounds.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for Portugal here. Moving on to 30th position is going to be Ukraine in at number 30. And looking at their scores, some no-mod enjoyers as well. That was their best bracket by far.
Yeah, solid performance on DT1 as well. That was considered by a lot of players to be one of the harder maps in the pool, I think. So pretty reasonable that they are kind of punching pretty well there. Ukraine, a team that haven't participated at the World Cup in their own right ever, but did have a joint team in 2013. And it's been a long, long time for a lot of Ukraine fans to see their team at the Catch World Cup. So it's really cool to see them having fun.
Yeah, something I really want to point out here is the 2.7 million score on Nomad 1, coming in at 27th overall. That's a really high score for Nomad 1, and this map is about, what, 6.15 stars if I remember correctly?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're getting a 2.7 mil score, that's averaging like a 900k per member. That's pretty good, even towards the bottom half of the teams that qualified.
And they did all of it with 4 players, too.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive coming out of a 4-player squad. Ukraine, though, will slot in at number 30. They will play the 3rd seed when we find out who they are later. So moving on to 29th. It will be Malaysia. So Malaysia slotting in at number 29. We've known them to be, back when they were group stages, you did not want to get Malaysia as your lower unseeded. They were in many groups of death. Now qualifiers, it's good to see them strut their stuff, especially in the hidden department.
Yeah, that's a really impressive score on both of the hidden picks, 23rd and 21st. Consistently way above a lot of their other performances, which are perfectly acceptable and all in terms of qualifying regardless. Malaysia, a team of fairly kind of old players that have been around in a lot of World Cups, so they're missing people like Future Miku and Shadow Fear, who have been in like almost every World Cup for a long time, but still quite a lot of experience in that squad, and definitely a team that will perform well under pressure.
Yeah, and still a squad that was good enough to qualify for the World Cup without their marquee players. Some new blood in there. DTN LR Ricky played a tournament with him. So good to see some new blood from Malaysia. So we're going to move on to number 28, and that will be Colombia. Colombia slotting in at number 28. Had a really good performance on Nomad 1 there. Number 20, their definite standout score, Sekre.
Yeah, these guys, I'm kind of surprised that they placed as low as they did. You look at all these players, and they're also all pretty decent at the game. And you kind of expect them to get a little bit higher, probably in the range of, I'd say, 20 to 25 is what I was expecting. So, hoping these guys can have a good showing in their first matches, second matches, and all going forward.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about kind of what the difficulty pacing of the qualifiers should be, and we know that we wanted the qualifiers to kind of provide something that does separate the top teams, where it's not like group stage, or in this case round of 32 level, but some people may not quite have been expecting the difficulty in qualifiers that we did actually see, and may have been tripped up by that a little bit. Colombia are one of those teams, if that's the case, that may find things a lot easier to settle into in the kind of round of 32 and round of 16 map pools that will be coming up. They might find that they can find their feet a little better there and realize a bit more of that potential.
Yes, well, they'll be playing against the 5th seed once we get to them. That will be their opponent in the first round. We're going to move on to number 27, and that is going to be the United Kingdom. So, JBH, I'll let you take this one away, brother.
Yeah, so actually I sat through in a voice call with them when they were playing their lobby, and pretty much the entire time they were just G'ing themselves up, saying like, we have to at least qualify, like that's our goal. We don't really kind of mind where we go there. There was some back and forth, but I think overall they've performed consistently well. And I think something that will be hilarious to them, Hidden won their best performance by a considerable margin, and a large part of that has to go to Statskun, I think, who I got a bit of flack for not mentioning him at all in the predictions showcase. He's a bit of a kind of known as a halftime player, a bit of a kind of like, haha, he only plays halftime, why is he in the team? Because there's no halftime pool. But this guy is like scarily good at low approach rates, and the fact that there was a low approach rate hidden map, I think he ended up getting like 920k in one of the rounds, and he was like, no, this is not good enough, I want to go again. So
pretty good.
Yeah, I was pretty impressed by that. Yeah,
16th place. That definitely boosted them up a little bit in the rankings. So the UK in at number 27. They will play against the 6th seed. Moving on to number 26. Turkey qualifying in the 26th position. Looking at their scores, Nomad, a decent field for them. Nomad 2 being a strong point. He also performed pretty good on Hard Rock 2.
Yeah, all around pretty consistent performance from Turkey. A couple of like 27s on the Nomad and hidden converts, but everything else looking very respectable. 21 to 25th. Yeah, pretty impressive performance from them. Again, another team that have not been able to secure a space at CWC for quite a long time since they've had this team, and managing to get into the knockout stages at the first time of asking. So yeah, they'll be securing that 26th place. Really well done. Looking forward to see what they can do in the kind of knockout stages.
Yeah, they actually did quite well on your map, GBH. Out of all of them, I was a bit surprised at how good their score was on that one, considering I think that was probably one of the harder maps to get a decent score on for these lower-ended teams.
So moving on now to number 25. It's going to be Thailand. Thailand in at number 25, and one of their stronger suits being double time.
Yeah, this is actually a really pleasant surprise for me, because I'll be first to admit, I didn't think with Azuria being like the only member carrying forward from CWC 2021, I didn't give Thailand much of a chance to qualify, but to see them placing as high as they did has proven me wrong, and I'm really happy to see that.
Yeah, that is definitely something to take note of with the amount of 4 digits you see there. That's a very impressive feat for Thailand.
Yeah, something that's also pretty impressive is they got a higher score on Hard Rock 2 than Hard Rock 1, which I think most of the players in the tournament kind of conceded the fact that Hard Rock 2 is probably harder than Hard Rock 1 on most occasions. So the fact they're getting higher score by about over 100,000 points as well is pretty good.
They generally outperformed the kind of on the converts relative to specifics on all of the mod pools. Really, you can see their hidden 2 score was higher. By quite a large margin. Their double time 2 score was higher as well. So again, one of these kind of dangerous convert teams where you can really struggle to ban something against them.
All right, Thailand slotting in at number 25. Moving on to number 24, it is going to be the Netherlands. And they really kind of did well all across the board, just struggled in hidden, but really consistent and competitive across every other mod bracket.
Yeah, this is probably going to be one of the teams that you could look at for a possible upset coming into the next round, because look at their scores on Nomad and Hard Rock and Double Time, like you all said. They're all pretty consistent. The only thing is these guys just have to ban hidden, and then now they're competing with you. So
yeah, without kind of bads, they've always kind of I think agreed that hidden is probably not going to be their strong point. But you can see in the Nomad pool, like those 2 19s pushing out of the 20s into kind of punching well above their kind of average weight. Double time as well, like 21st and 19th as well.
The Dutch have always been a very, very strong and experienced nation. I mean, even looking at the team, you've got Wesley, Phoenix, who has been coming up through the 4-digit scene in the catch that's, just developed recently. Shaddy, who has really taken on the role of becoming that ace for the Netherlands that they need. And Christian and Kevkev also getting experience in community tourneys. So, like you said, Sekre, this could be a team for a potential upset, but they will have to do it against the 9th-seeded team.
something else I'm noticing in the chat is that Wesley wasn't there for the hidden, which Wesley is their hidden player now that Bads isn't here. So if Wesley was there, you could have possibly even seen these guys going up to seed 20, 19, something like that, if Wesley was able to play the hidden maps.
Interesting to say the least. Well, we'll have to move on. Netherlands, 24th, on to 23rd. It is Sweden. And Sweden coming in with some pretty good, consistent scores all around, notably popping off in Hard Rock, though.
Yeah,
one of the last teams to participate in qualifiers in this kind of final block, so we were waiting on their score right at the end there. I'll let you carry on a second.
Yeah, I was going to mention their Nomad 3 score is higher than their Nomad 1 score. I don't know if any other team has done that. That's actually quite impressive that their Nomad 3 is higher than Nomad 1.
Yeah, that is kind of interesting to note. And you see that this is only a 5-player squad, and this is essentially 1 player away from being the full powers Sweden that from back in the day, just minus Satomi, but we see a lot of really familiar names there. Datapada, Yugitera, Manu, Miku, Aesion, and Eclipse. So again, another team that might be able to do something in the first round. We'll have to wait and see. Moving on to 22nd place is going to be Norway. Oh, how funny is that?
It's great.
And we saw plenty of comments like, oh my god, Sweden are below Norway. Only just below.
Not by much. Interesting. And actually, Norway really popping off in hidden. 18th overall across both maps there.
Yeah, Norway, one of the 2 teams in this year's CWC that has the exact same roster as their 2021 compatriots, so a lot of experience, a lot of performance in tournaments, so no, or at least minimal nerves compared to some other teams. Hard Rock looked like it was a little bit of a weakness for them, but all around, otherwise, pretty solid performance. 14th on No Mod 3. Again, so you were saying that a lot of teams probably didn't get higher scores on No Mod 3 than No Mod 1.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's just a kind of Scandinavian thing.
You know, I also could have possibly seen this coming in the future or beforehand, because I saw on Twitter one of their players, I think, posted that they FC'd both No Mod 3 and Hidden 3 or Hidden 2 outside of the tournament on Twitter, and they were like, "Oh wow, converts are much easier than specifics, pretty much."
Surprise, surprise! It was their 2 best maps.
Yeah.
So Norway will take the 22nd seed. They will get the 11th seed in the first round. Moving on to number 21. It's going to be Vietnam. And again, another team that really hits it out of the park with Hidden and just struggled a little bit with double time.
Yeah, we're starting to see a lot of these scores kind of close up in some of the teams. You can see the teams that are kind of generally overall more consistent, where their average placing on each map is more kind of grouped together, whereas the teams that have brought their average up by one particular bracket, or it's come down by not being good at a particular bracket. So there's a lot of useful information for potential opponents as to which map should we be banning and which map should we be first picking here. But Vietnam looking strong in Hidden, not having any kind of major weaknesses anywhere else. Like their double time score, as you said, Doland, was not as good as the other mod brackets, but it was by no means bad.
Indeed, yeah. Good enough. 26th overall is not bad by any means, but just lower than their other brackets. But a good spot for them. Vietnam, a country that has been kind of on the rise the past few years in catch, ever since 2018. So we'll see what they can do in their first round. But we're going to move on to number 20, and it will be Argentina. And some more no mod enjoyers.
And for all of you people who are kind of following the top players in terms of rank, you can see the Saikai or Story, fairly recent rename. One of the first kind of like very highly ranked players that will have been appearing in any of our World Cup rosters. Traditionally, one of those teams, Argentina, that have had one or two very experienced, kind of highly rated players that maybe didn't quite have a team that could fully support them. And Hidden looking, again, as it has kind of sometimes been in the past, a little bit of a weakness, but anything involving speed or kind of precision, so the Hard Rock and Double Time especially looking very good, but their No Mod was really good, outside of kind of a maybe middling No Mod 1.
Yeah, something that I find a bit surprising here is that their lowest scores were on Hidden. I'm not sure if it's that Saikai possibly wasn't there and couldn't pick up the weight on the Hidden maps a little bit, or just that the rest of the roster just can't play Hidden at all, and that would explain the scores on Hidden being quite low, because Saikai is definitely one of the better Hidden players, I'd say, in the game. So
he did play on Hidden 1, but he didn't top score for his team.
I see.
Let me see if he played Hidden 2. He did play Hidden 2 and he was 18th, so pretty solid score on Hidden 2, but he didn't have quite as good of a time on Hidden.
As many teams struggled in Hidden 1, and I'm sure we're going to see that going forward here. But Argentina, good enough for 20th. We'll move on to 19th, and that will be Poland this year. So Poland coming into that 19th spot. Fairly good, consistent averages all around, just notably slightly worse in the Hard Rock and Hidden department. But their double time was very impressive. First time we see a top 10 score.
Yeah, this is a bit surprising, I'd say. Most people usually think of Poland and they think, wow, these guys are pretty good. They've always been relatively decent in these past few years. They've usually ended up in the, I think, 8th to 12th range, something around that. And seeing them come in all the way at 19 is a bit surprising. They do have really good double time scores, like you said, but obviously looking at the Hidden pool, losing Fob is quite a big factor on there this year.
Yeah, he would certainly have helped with the low AR Hidden in that mod bracket. I'm a little bit surprised to see that Double Time is Poland's strongest mod bracket, really. I've always kind of figured them as more of a Hard Rock team, personally, but Might be the difficulty of the bracket suited them, it might be kind of changing of their preferences and what they practice and what they focus on. But yeah, interesting to see how that develops going forward, because we're really getting close to like the 3 million point marks here. You can see in that DT2, that 9th place finish, a really good finish for them.
Yeah, now we're getting to the point where we're starting to see almost on every map solid scores of at least upwards 2.7 plus on most maps. So it's going to get competitive from here on out. Moving on to 18th is going to be Finland. So Finland, interesting no-mod scores here. We see another top 10, but we also see that they struggled kind of on no-mod 1.
Yeah, a bit surprising seeing Nomad 1 come in as the struggle maps for a lot of these middling ground teams. Usually, at least from what I've heard between most of the chitter chatter that I've heard, is that Nomad 1 is going to be the map that most people can do pretty well on, and Nomad 3 is kind of RNG, but it seems like most of the players this year are actually getting a lot better at converts, which is a really good thing to see coming into future years of the World Cup.
I think it helps for Finland in particular that a lot of their players have been around for quite a long time, with only Huolto being a new member to CWC. And we see a lot of the kind of players that have been around longer are naturally more interested in or more proficient in or just play more converts. So that wouldn't surprise me, kind of as we see here, that Finland are a team that kind of punch a little higher in converts than they do in specifics.
Yep, and Finland will not have to wait long to find out their opponent. They will get to play against the 15th seed. But before we get to them, the 17th seed, it's going to be Japan. So Japan coming in here with some honestly pretty good scores all around. I mean, most of their scores are top 20, nearly in the teens. And really kind of dominated on Hidden, especially Hidden 1, 2.5 million.
Yeah, really good performance from them. Again, so complete opposite we saw to Finland. That Nomad 1 score kind of dwarfing their other performances for Japan. Not quite so happy with DT2 and Nomad 3, but pretty good consistent performance otherwise all around. Interesting one I noticed, Molkus, their captain, was in the top 10 performers on Hard Rock 2, so an interesting kind of observation that isn't really necessarily reflected from the team performance, but as captain, Molkus still definitely top of his game, leading from the front, which is good to see.
Sure.
Well, and now for Japan, they get the benefit of instant gratification. Their opponent, the 16th seed, it's Brazil. Brazil coming in with some really good Hard Rock scores. I mean, we've always known Brazil to be pretty proficient in the mod brackets, but just struggling a bit on Hidden.
Yeah, that Hard Rock 1 score, that's really high. When you consider the fact that an FC on that map typically was around 1,135,000, including the sprinter, I think was the minimum spin that most people would get. Multiply that by 3, they're only a few misses off of a triple FC run, and that's number 9. That means there's 8 teams who did better than that, and that's a really good score coming in from Brazil. Usually when you hear Brazil, you think in the past, oh, they're a hidden team. But they've kind of revamped their rosters slightly. They don't have Hanek this year, who was one of their main hidden players, so they're kind of transitioning to being more of a Hard Rock Nomad team, which is always nice to see.
So it will be Brazil and Japan in the first round. Now for Finland's opponent, the 15th seed, it's going to be Germany. So Germany coming in, the first team to come in with multiple top 10 scores. We see on Nomad 3 and DT1.
Yeah, the only score standing out here in a negative light would be the Hidden 1 score. We know that some of their players were not that happy about Hidden 1 being a low AR map, but all their other scores seem pretty solid. They have number 7 on Nomad 3 and number 7 on DT1, and that shows quite a big variety of scores or mods that they can be able to play at this high of a level.
Yeah, Germany scoring 2 FCs on DT1, Nerfu and Inryuka both scoring maximum combo on that one, which helped secure them quite a high place there. Hidden 1, and I guess to a certain extent Nomad 1, a little bit of an outlier, but otherwise a pretty solid performance for Germany. Definitely could have been maybe a few places higher up with a little bit of more luck or practice or whatever the case may be on a couple of maps there. And that's what's going to separate the good teams from the really great teams, is can they be consistent across entire map pools? And that is really quite a huge challenge.
So Germany falling into that 15th position. Moving on to number 14. It will be Belgium. Belgium, a rising EU contender over the past few years, and they have come in with kind of a spicy qualifier run in the fact that they've got 2 top 10s as well in the form of Nomad 2 and Double Time 1, but they had a few struggles on Nomad 3 and DT2.
Yeah, that Nomad 2 score is really good. Like, that's a 2.9 mil. That's number 7. That's honestly so good for those guys. I bet those guys are probably like, oh my god, we just did such a good score on that map. Let's go. And seeing they did also very similar on DT1, these guys are really strong coming in at 14.
Yeah,
that's a really interesting kind of thing to observe just before we kind of move on the DT, that there was only 150,000 points difference between their Nomad 1 DT, their DT1 and their DT2, but the difference in rank is 8 and 20. Like, that is not a huge difference in terms of score, but I guess like that's just gonna show that the top of the bunch are very, very close. So from here on out, I think there's going to be very little separating a lot of teams.
We could be in for some interesting seedings. We'll see if those predictions hold up.
Yep.
Moving on to number 13. It will be Singapore, and this is a really good showing for them here in the 13th position. They've got some great scores as well. 6th on Nomad 3, 4th on Hidden 2, and another top 10 in Nomad 2 and DT2 as well. So 4 top 10 scores from Singapore.
Yeah,
I know we say how like that it's a team game and that you need your whole team to do well, but I just want to do a quick little shout out that Hang is one of the only players who got a double S on Hidden 2, which I think significantly boosted their average and helped a lot there. The rest of the team obviously also performing very well to get like close to 2.9 million, but it's the first number 1 score on a map that we've seen so far.
Yeah, honestly, looking at this, I think this is probably one of the first teams that we've seen punching really above what we expected them to be able to do. You look at their roster and you mostly think, oh yeah, these guys have been playing for a while and Hyang is obviously going to do Hyang things, but I don't think many people expected them to come in at seed number 13. That's
I absolutely
really
had Singapore at like the 25th, 32nd. I thought they were going to qualify for sure, but didn't expect like a lot of them. And again, I'm very happy to be proven wrong. They have done exceedingly well in this pool with really just a couple of performances lagging behind, but they have more than dragged it back with that Nomad 3 and the Hidden 2.
And that this great qualifier's performance will pay dividends for them on the bracket, taking that 13th seed. So, excellent job from Hyang and the crew. Moving on though to number 12. It's going to be Australia, our good friends down under here, with some really consistent scores across all mod brackets. I mean, this is probably one of the more consistent looking score spreads we've seen.
Yeah, these guys show that they can play pretty much anything at a very consistent level. Something that I do want to point out that's really sticking out to me right now is that Hard Rock 1 score. That is high. That is just about 120,000-ish, 130,000-ish points from the max score that you could get, even if you're triple FC and you had a pretty decent sprinter. And that's only like, what, maybe 5-6 misses, I think, something like in that range, and that's only 13. So seeing that come in is pretty crazy to me.
And I think another thing that's also crazy is to point out that they only have 1 top 10 score, but they come in with the 12th seed.
Yeah.
That takes amazing consistency across the entirety of the map pool. And they may not be at the tippy top, but they're doing it at a great caliber, a great position to be right there in the midst So they should be able to make some noise. Well, we're getting close to the top 10, to the 11th seed. It is going to be the Russian Federation this year taking the 11th spot. And the first number 1 we see coming out, they take number 1 on Hard Rock 1 with a blistering score there. But they also are some no-mod enjoyers.
Yeah, that's a really good performance from the Russian Federation. We see Memoriola SS, we see Insomnia, I think 1 droplet miss. Nelly got a single miss within the last kind of 100 combo. They really did pop off on that map, absolutely.
Yeah, and you can see here the big thing that's holding down Russia is the hidden pool. Sadly, they only got a total score of 2.2 million on hidden 1, which is very low. That's gonna tank your scoring quite a bit with the percentage system that is being used this year for qualifiers. That might be why they have decent bit lower seed than you would expect looking at all their other ranks in the double time, the hard rocks, and the no mods.
Definitely looking to be deadly on Hard Rock and Double Time, for sure. Russia will take the 11th seed. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we go to the top 10. This is what we've been waiting for. In the 10th seed, it's going to be Mexico. 4th place in 2019. We see them here in the top 10. So, a pretty consistent spread, just struggling slightly more in Hard Rock and Double Time than they do in No Mod and Hidden, but still, pretty good stuff from Mexico.
Oh yeah, you look at this roster and you just see so many seasoned players. These players have been playing for so long, and they added 2 players who are just so good at these types of maps. Muragaki especially. This guy has been popping off in another tournament called Osaka Draft Tournament, if you haven't been watching. He is such an insane player, and it shows definitely in these qualifiers. Looking at the hidden scores, especially number 6 and number 6, such good scores.
Yeah, they got number 6 in Double Time 2 and also number 5 in No Mod 3 as well. So a lot of top 10 performances stand out there. And also want to point out Cowboy, a very experienced member of Mexico team, one of 4 people to SSDT1. So again, not quite reflected so much in the team performance, but a really good standout that I just wanted to mention.
Well, so they get 6th on both hidden maps, but are somehow 7th overall in hidden. That's interesting. Anyway. Moving on to number 9. It's going to be Italy. Oh, that's funny. Those 2 one after another. That'll throw your eyes for a loop there. Italy taking the 9th seed. I think this is a little lower than most people expected them to be.
Yeah, I think this is probably the first really major surprise. Although we always mentioned last week that the top kind of 8, 10, maybe even 12 placings could be very fluid and the teams were all very evenly matched. But Italy are a team that I had on like the podium at the end of this tournament for sure. So maybe this isn't quite what they wanted to do to start. They might have given themselves a slightly more difficult matchup in maybe 2 weeks' time, for example. So certainly no bad performances really anywhere. Their hidden performance, not great with the 10th and the 15th. But Hard Rock 1 coming in 2nd with that 3.3 million score. And everything else was pretty solid. The No Mod 3 score as well, really good on Umero Parade. Armor, one of the top performing players on there, 6 players scoring a double S, and yeah, he's top of that pile.
Oh yeah, looking at this team again, the big thing carrying a lot of these teams between the 8 to 12 range is hidden. These hidden mod is going to carry them down quite drastically. You look at all their other scores on No Mod and Hard Rock and Double Time, and you're just like, wow, these guys are really good. But then you go to hidden and you see they're quite a bit off of the potential max score, and that's going to drag you down quite a bit.
Yeah, and unfortunately for them, that does kind of put them in a weird position in the bracket. They'll have to face some of the stronger teams sooner, but they're definitely still going to be a threat. So Italy will be taking number 9, and now we go to our top 8. And it will be France in 8th. So Les Bleus coming in 8th here. No Mod being their worst bracket, but definitely picking it up in Double Time, Hard Rock, and even Hidden. So just really well versed in all the mods.
Yeah, I think something that was mentioned last week and again in the kind of week preceding is that France were a team that might get let down a little bit by their hidden, but that's actually been proven not really to be the case. Hidden is definitely by no means trailing behind their other mods here, which is good to see for them going forward.
Yeah, they had a pretty balanced overall seedings, it seems. And it kind of goes right into our predictions. If I remember correctly, we predicted France to come in the 7th, 8th slot. And coming in at seed number 8 seems just about right for them. We got to hope that they can kick it up. Tito was number 2 in the world, Natsuko number 12 in the world. These two guys are really scary on what they can do well. And we got to hope that they can come and show us a good match.
All right, so transitioning now to number 7. And it will be Taiwan in 7th place. So Taiwan always been known as a perennial contender in catch. And this, I think, is a bit higher than a lot of people may have had them. But they usually do come in around that kind of 10 spot area. But we see their scores. I mean, Nomad 2, Hidden 2. They knocked it out of the park, as well as Hard Rock 2.
Yeah, these guys had such a good score on Nomad 2. I believe that's 1 miss between their whole team. If I'm correct, yeah, probably 1 miss between the whole team, if not maybe 2 misses, but that's such an insane score to get, as well as their Hard Rock 2 score. That's a 3.2 mil. That's only a few misses there as well. Gotta hope that they can bring up their double time just a little bit, so that way they can keep it up with the other teams, but overall looking really solid.
Yeah, I was going to say that double time looking a little bit of a concern for now. The score's not kind of hugely bad, like 2.9 mil on both, but yeah, like lagging behind a little bit in terms of rank. And I mean, when it gets to knockout, it doesn't matter whether you win by 1 point or 1 million points. So maybe a little bit of extra training or practice in double time pools next week can help bring them above their opponents.
Well, all right, moving on to 6th place. And it will be Canada this year in that 6th position. Looking at their scores, really consistent overall. Hidden being their weak point, but I mean, still coming in 9th overall with a 5th and 13th finish. That's not bad for a weak point.
Yeah, you can see the speed enjoyment here. Like 2nd on double time 1, 6th and 4th on the hard rock picks as well. Very, very good performance from them throughout. So 2 2nd places, also getting 2nd place on Nomad 3.
Yeah, I know quite a bit of people in here who were watching one of the qualifier streams that Fubi was having. He was just streaming some of his gameplay. You could hear some of the players talk in the background while they were playing the maps. And when you heard the commentary for Hidden 2, it was like, oh no, something must have went wrong there. So hopefully they can bring up their Hidden 2 score just a little bit, because we all know these guys are insanely good at Hidden. You have Katsuragi and Henrik, 2 of the probably better Hidden players in this tournament, I'd say. And you gotta hope that they can bring up that score just a little bit for these coming rounds.
Yeah, one thing I just wanted to mention that I thought was quite funny. Their 2nd place on Nomad 3, Fuhi and Hendrik both FC'd with 1 droplet miss. And then their double time 1 performance, where they obviously also got number 2. It was Ymir and Henrik, and also got FCs with 1 droplet miss. So I hope that doesn't kind of bring any nerves or kind of frustration to get that SS. Because obviously very solid performance all the way around, but just a little stat I thought was quite interesting too.
Well, all right, so Canada will have a nice position in the bracket to start with that 6th place. But moving on to the top 5 in 5th, it will be Chile taking that 5th place spot. And as we can see, some mod enjoyment, and they definitely struggled. There was one map in particular you could tell they struggled more than the others. Nomad 3, and well, Hidden 2 to an extent, but their Hidden 1 performance more than made up for that.
Yeah, looking at the leaderboards for Hidden 1, Letku was the top performer, one of only 3 people who managed to secure an FC. Pekarat got a 1 miss, I thought, maybe a couple of misses, but within the last 15 notes. And then you go down a little bit, and Eldenel also within the top 20 as well. So yeah, really, really good enjoyment in that Hidden 1. A lot of kind of a 2nd, a 3rd, 4th, 5th, some really good placements all around. But as you said, like that Hidden 2 and the Nomad 3, a little bit interesting, a little bit surprising. Wasn't kind of quite where I expected them to struggle. Not that they would ever really struggle at any point, but relatively speaking.
Something I do want to mention is they got second overall on the Hard Rock pool, but then you look at their individual scores for the Hard Rock, and they got number 5 and number 3. And the reason why I think this is because Hard Rock 1 was so significantly easier than Hard Rock 2 to get a good score on overall. So what I think happened was that on Hard Rock 1, they got so much closer to the highest percent than on Hard Rock 2, where they had, actually no, it was the opposite way around, where Hard Rock 2, they had closer to a higher percent score than Hard Rock 1, which means that their Hard Rock is quite a big boost.
So Chile looking good in the 5th position, but they will miss out on the top 4 spots in 4th. It's going to be Indonesia taking that 4th place spot here. And as you can see, just some tremendous stuff from them. 2nd overall on Nomad. I mean, they've got number 1 on Nomad 2, a number 2 on DT2, a number 3 on Hidden 1. I mean, they've got almost, they basically got almost all top 10s.
We see our first number 1 there, as you mentioned, Dolan, on Nomad 2, with some really good performances from Dika Netamaru as well. Really good to see. No kind of obvious mod weakness. But they were definitely much more proficient at the kind of speedier converts than they were the specifics. Although it seemed to have kind of been reflected the opposite way in the Hidden pool, where they performed really well on Hidden 1 and not quite as well on Hidden 2. But Indonesia, a team of like really efficient Hidden players all throughout their CWC history, so really no surprise there.
A very good showing for them, but 3 teams did it better, and we're going to find out who. In 3rd place, it's going to be the United States taking 3rd in the qualifiers. Going through their scores, they're the first team to have all top 10s at least. And some really good stuff, just struggling a little bit in Hidden and Hard Rock compared to the Nomad and DT, but I'll let you take this one away, Sekre.
Yeah, so we came into it, we kind of hoped we would get top 4. We were aiming for number 1. We didn't practice as much as we probably should have if we were really aiming for number 1. But coming into with these scores, I think we're pretty satisfied looking at the scores overall. Obviously, we got number 1 on Nomad 3 and number 1 on DT2. We had some really good scores as a team throughout those. And then the real one that's surprising for me is that we got 2nd on Hidden 2. That one we felt like we didn't do the best on, but we actually had a pretty good overall run, it seems.
I mean, you might not have thought you did that well, but Lexi's still SS.
Oh yeah, so. Lexi, that guy, I love Lexi, dude. He's just coming in. I think he's probably one of the best performing players of the qualifiers. He FC'd so many maps. I could always just look on the left and see, yes, Lexi FC'd.
You could trust in Lexi. So the US coming in 3rd place.
So we're back to that eternal battle, aren't we? South Korea, China, South Korea.
Well, we'll go ahead and play this out a little bit. I want to know where the chat stands. Is it SK or China, guys? We got to build up the suspense, the drama. Okay. Let's see who it is. In 2nd place is South Korea. Plot twist! So South Korea. Weakest point was DT, but again, still showing that dominance that we expect out of South Korea and Catch the Beat.
Yeah, these guys, I heard they didn't practice as much as they would have liked to, but they still have really good scores, as you would expect. They are South Korea. And so, you look at their scores, they're all pretty much in the top 10. Only coming in at number 10 for double time 1, but that's not even that much of a problem. You look at their Nomad scores, number 1 on Nomad 1, number 3 on Nomad 2, number 4 on Nomad 3. That's really high consistency for these guys.
And to any eagle-eyed viewers, you'll have seen that of the 9 maps that we've currently got in our qualifier pool, 5 of them we already know who the number 1 is, and that means that our final remaining team, which is obviously China, took 4 other number 1 places. So let's have a look and see how they did it.
And they did it both Hiddens, 1 Hard Rock, 1 double time. So a clean sweep of the Hidden pool for China. I mean, and Sekre, we were kind of discussing this earlier, but I'll let you go ahead and dive into our player of the qualifiers.
Oh yeah. So there has been some speculation between some players over the weekend. that one player on China did really, really good. And I don't think anybody in the chat will be able to guess which player did as good as I am saying. Kovir FC'd every single map. He kind of popped off.
9 for 9.
Yeah, usually when you see China, you think Dusk Crystal. No. This year, Kovir is just insane.
So China, I mean, they've won a World Cup or 2 or 3. They are looking primed to get another, coming in overall first in every mod bracket aside from no mod. I mean, that is a statement made, and ladies and gentlemen, that is your lineup for the 2022 Us Catch World Cup. So we know our matchups, we know the bracket. The only thing that's left is to go over the maps, which we will be getting to shortly. What do you guys make of the top 32?
Ooh, spicy. That's what I'll say. We got some really interesting matchups coming into semifinals from what I've seen. We have, if I remember correctly, number 8 versus number 9, which I think was Italy versus France, or something like that, would be a possible matchup coming into semifinals. Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way.
France is 8, Italy 9, you're correct.
Yeah, so that would be a possible matchup coming into semifinals, and
well, that would be a really
winner of
interesting repeat of European catch cup that was kind of taken place very recently as well. So maybe some revenge on the cards there. France looking to get one back over on Italy.
We got so many interesting matchups. I think we have Brazil versus Japan. That's going to be a great matchup. We're going to have Germany versus Finland. Whew. The one that I'm looking forward to personally is USA versus Chile later on in the tournament. By the way, these are all later on, assuming that the brackets kind of mesh the way they do with seedings.
They never do.
They never do. That is true.
Never do.
You can always expect at least one upset. But oh my lord, we have some really good quality matches coming our way for these next couple of weeks.
But the stage is set, ladies and gentlemen. So thanks to everyone who played in the qualifiers. If you did not make a cut this year, we still want to thank you for participating, and we hope to see you back next year. But it looks like we're going to be setting things up here to transition over to our Mappool Showcase in about 5 to 10 minutes. So we will be getting a caster swap. I will be stepping out. And who do we have here?
Hello. It's good to be back.
Welcome.
My boy, WWWW. I think I said the right amount of W's, right? 5 W's.
Yeah, 5 W's. Thank you, Mr. Secre.
So
Always
thank
my
you very
pleasure.
much, Doland, for your introduction and leading us through the 37 teams and of course the 32 that have qualified. As was said, we're going to have a little 5-minute break whilst the round of 32 map pool gets set up, and then we will present that to you, and you can all go practice or hypothesize and do your whiteboard maths as to how the tournament's going to play out if you don't happen to be a player. But yeah, don't go anywhere. We will be back with you very, very shortly. Okay, thank you for bearing with us, everyone. Hopefully you've either not gone away, or if you have, you've just grabbed yourself a nice beverage or a snack. It's time for the round of 32 Mappool Showcase. So a few little ground rules, I guess. Qualifiers was intended to be a bit harder than what we would normally see in a group stage to help space out the teams from each other and not have everyone just be SSing at the top of the field. So we are going to be taking a step down in difficulty again for round of 32. Also, pool size, much bigger. We're going from 9 maps up to, I think, 15. So there'll be 4 no mod, and then 3 hidden, 2 hidden? I'm getting myself mixed up. 2 hidden, 2 hard rock, 3 double time. More double time than other pools, because we've got the addition of the mixed mod bracket, where 1 player will be playing no mod, 1 hidden, and then 1 hard rock. So the mixed mod bracket kind of adds in a little bit of extra hidden and hard rock flavor, which is why we have an extra double time. And of course, we'll be rounding things out with a tiebreaker, because I know that Twitch chat, you all love your tiebreakers. So I think, all that being said, we are ready to get going. Any kind of words about the round of 32 map pool that we need to know about before we get started?
For sure. As a short summary for the round of 32 pool, there is a lot more consistency within this pool because of the step down in difficulty. And that's going to be the first thing that is most likely noticed. Spread out through each of the mod pools is each and own's kind of consistency map to help test the mod without being too overbearing on the skill set itself.
Okay, so without any further delay, I think we can get right into it with our no mod 1. And that is going to be Kotoba no Iranai Yakosuku by Sana. This is mapped by Dapu, good friend of mine. 4 minutes in drain, so immediately hinting at that consistency pick that we've kind of talked about previously. 170 BPM, circle size of 4.2, approach rate of 9.2, and I think this can best be described as the epitome of the no mod 1 consistency pick that a lot of players, no matter what they enjoy, what they kind of train on, will be at least familiar with this kind of mapping style.
Yes, and like you said, it is a very sort of meta map. About every single player has most likely played a map like this. And for consistency, it makes it a really nice one to have. I think the only downside is that the background makes me cry.
So, like, naturally playing with dim, but not because it helps us read, but because it helps us stay sane. So yeah, to answer questions that have been going on, of course, feel free to drop your predictions, not only for tiebreaker, but anything at any point. We do love to see what you guys come up with, and maybe, since there is a map pooler in the chat right now, write that down, take your notes, and manipulating later pools on the fly to give you what you want, or maybe what you don't want. There could be a chaotic evil amongst us.
Preferably don't want. I love VTubers.
Yeah, we can see kind of winding in here. The map is very kind of primarily focused on 1/2 jumps, and 170 BPM is not particularly fast, so plenty of leniency given there. There are a couple of little bursting 1/4 sections, and the little 1/3 section that you can see just there, relatively well identified, so you shouldn't be too surprised when you kind of get to that, and you'll like immediately know just by visually, yes, this is a rhythm switch here. But a couple of the little stream sections that I was going to say do incorporate some sharp direction changes one after another, so it's not a kind of map that you can just completely turn off brain and still manage to FC.
For sure. A lot of basic patterns that flow into each other, and it really makes the more snappy ones stand out. Not to mention quite a few spinners that can help you accumulate a somewhat decent amount of score.
Yeah, so with the kind of difficulty having been dropped quite a bit, coming from qualifiers down to round of 32, that's a very good point to make, that spinners, especially amongst the top teams, who will highly likely be getting very consistently good scores on maps like this and this kind of pool, spinners could become incredibly crucial with regards to whether you secure a point or not. Because even though we'll be pitching obviously the highest seeded teams against the lowest seeded teams, and where we meet in the middle, where the teams have very similar seedings, I think teams throughout that have qualified this pool will still be able to feel like they can perform fairly consistently and comfortably well. So there'll be much less of a gap between the top teams and the weaker teams. So it could come down to spin battles, largely.
For sure, and with this pool in particular, there are definitely more spinners overall compared to the qualifiers pool. The map may be almost over, but I'll never forget Jiraiya and this song.
Of course, these will all be streamed from next weekend on, so you'll be reminded of it every time this map shows up, which I imagine will be quite a bit.
Thank goodness.
But moving on to No Mod 2, so we're going to go something completely different now. This is anything from kind of fairly generic, commonly seen mapping style. This is Peer Gint by Sysmix, one of our very talented and one of our original featured artists. This is a map made by Miam. A lot shorter, just under 2.5 minutes in length. 140 BPM, so it tells you there's going to be a lot of more technical movements like 1/4 dashes and wiggling and things to kind of spice up a low BPM like that. Circle size 4 and approach rate 8.8, a little bit lower than what we just saw previously. But the key kind of points to see here are going to be lots of high slider velocity sliders, some wiggles in high velocity sliders, and some of the sliders like that one that you can see just there require you to hold dash going into the slider, or you will not hit that tick at the kind of far distance.
Yeah, the map being a lot more dense as a whole, and generally more unconventional, is going to allow the matches in the sort of mid-tier seeding to potentially choose out the teams that perhaps are better skilled in No Mod. So you may notice this map seems a bit harder than No Mod 1, but its purpose being as unconventional as it is to kind of help point out these differentiating teams that are close together in skill sets.
Yeah, that's a good point you raised, that it's harder, because we all had a bit of a kind of internal crisis when seeing this map, because we kind of thought, well, like, we love it, but it's too hard, so please nerf it. But don't nerf it too much, because it's really good and we don't want you to ruin it. So we had to kind of find a little bit of a sweet spot with regards to how we could keep the map still difficult and challenging, but also still really interesting for around a 32 stage. And there's absolutely some potential for tragic slider breaks on some of those ending ones there. And some of these little quarter tap dashes that you can see at the end here look fairly comfy, but they can be a little bit tricky, especially when nerves are at play and you have to do many of them back to back. So 2 specifics in the No Mod pool down, 2 converts to follow. The first one is Astria no Sobe from Zodiac Syndicate. Angel Honey, a map that's been very kind of common around the OS scene for a long time. This one, the shortest map in the No Mod pool, 2 minutes in length, 173 BPM. Circle size of 5, definitely the kind of major talking point here. Very kind of standard approach rate of 9.
Yeah, a very older map. You can kind of tell with the older song. This was submitted in 2012, and the CS5 does allow for more precision and could be definitely be classified as one of the more difficult converts of the pool, having a lot of tricky patterns that could make it very easy to miss in a tournament setting.
Yeah, a lot of the streams are kind of fairly cozy, and even though those little repeat sliders are inverted, you can pretty much stand still on them. But in a typical convert fashion, there are some kind of unexpected, necessarily strong dashes to watch out for, and the circle size 5 does make those a little bit more punishing than they would be normally. Again, also in some of these streams, the stream kind of flow changes fairly abruptly without really much warning. So platter control is obviously the watchword of the day for something with circle size like this.
And with these streams as a whole, misses won't really total your score as much. And with this map in particular, there are multiple things that can trip you up to be caught out on and cause a miss. But I think we're going to see a lot of close together scores on this map because of that. So even if you get like 975, 980k from one miss, you could definitely see that with the enemy teams as well.
Enemy teams, you make it sound so violent. This is just a fruit catching contest.
You're right. I'm taking it too seriously.
But no, coming into our final no mod pick, Ame Ne Utaiba from Empty Pepperoncino, another one of our featured artists, a bit more recent than Sysmix. This is the Captain's Insane difficulty. Again, on the longer, more consistency focused side, just under 4 minutes. BPM of 220, but it's a little bit deceptive because there are large parts of the map where it's kind of mapped at a lower density, so it doesn't feel necessarily quite as fast as that 220 suggests. Circle size of 4 and approach rate of 9.3, very common kind of settings in terms of readability. But a lot of these sliders that will kind of crop up throughout the later sections are slanted just enough to make you think like, should I be wiggling these? Can I be standing in the middle of them when I don't have to wiggle? So that can be kind of putting players in two minds with regards to whether they should maintain the flow or whether they should try and stand still and conserve a little bit of energy.
Yeah, like JBH said, I don't have too much more to add, basically. Everything I said, besides I really like the replay name. But this being higher BPM, the one thing you will see that is a consequence of that is these sort of fast streams that can help catch you back up to pace with combo if you do miss. Kind of like No Mod 3, it's not going to hurt your score too bad depending on where you miss, because you can get back up to 200 that quickly.
Yeah, unlike we might see in some other converted difficulties, when I played through this, I didn't notice too many kind of strong dashes that felt kind of unfair. And I think the fact that the BPM is high meant that things being placed closer together means that if you have good platter control, you can kind of balance things where you catch something on obviously one edge and something on the next edge, and it's not too problematic. That is obviously a little bit of a kind of close spinner to note distance, but I think thankfully the object starts in the center of the screen, so not too problematic. One other last thing that I wanted to mention about this that's kind of I wrote down. When I was playing this, I felt like the map ended, or was going to end about 3 different times, but then it kept going. It's one of those songs that has some sort of false finishes where you maybe hear the song starting to fade out, or there's a spinner and you take your hand off the keyboard and then you realize, oh, actually, it's not quite done yet, I need to get back to work. So hopefully everyone will practice the pool at least once and realize that when they kind of come to play it in the match. But just something that I'd like to mention in case people decide, I'm not going to practice this.
I'm honestly happy you said that. When I played this map, I went through the same thing, and it may or may not have caused one of my misses because I decided to take a drink of water. My bad.
So yeah, despite being a higher BPM song, the streams aren't really the kind of challenge to this. There's not too many like split streams or deformations or weird flow. The streams are all kind of like short and bursty and not too problematic. It really is like picking these little half dashes quite nicely and also deciding whether you wiggle or whether you kind of stand still on those little slanted sliders. So, hidden pool coming up now, and as I said before, we've got 2 to come from. One custom specific, again, got to talk about how we're getting custom maps created specifically for CWC to ensure that the map poolers get exactly what they want. Yoru ni Kakeru by Yasobi. This is Bunrei's second map in the CWC this year, after also mapping Hard Rock 1. Back to the consistency focus, 4 minutes in length, 130 BPM, but again, mapped in something of a kind of like double BPM style, so you'll see a lot of these little 1/4 or 1/6 slider dashes. A circle size of 4.2 and approach rate of 9, so generally fairly readable as far as hidden approach rates go. And again, like long, consistency focus, good mix of like hyper dashes with normal flow, hyper dashes with anti-flow, and some of these little tap dashing swing elements that are not hugely difficult to read with hidden at this approach rate, but still require a little bit of focus to ensure that you're not dropping slider tails too early.
And like you said, it's not really difficult on the reading side of things. Basically the equivalent of turning on hidden on a very sort of 4-ranked map. So it should be able to see a lot of scores on here, being the skill check kind of map. Maps that think they have the Nomad advantage can definitely feel confident enough to pick this in match.
So to anyone asking, pool spread is 4 no mod, 2 hidden hard rock and mixed mod, and then 3 double times plus a tiebreaker. You can see a lot more wiggling popping up in the map towards the later stages. Not again too difficult to manage with hidden at this approach rate, but definitely something that requires a little bit of focus and consistency. I agree with comments that like the hidden definitely feels like a little bit of a step up in terms of if you were to play this map on no mod, then you would find it more challenging for say than no mod 1. But I think that's fairly intended, that no mod 1 serves as like a very kind of introductory, but obviously not trivial entry to the round of 32 that everyone will feel somewhat comfortable on.
Yeah, and with this round of 32 being so early on, and like JBH said earlier, these sort of middle-seeded teams being kind of close in skill, it feels kind of necessary to have a few maps that are kind of a step up, a way for those better skilled teams to get some points off rather than leaving it to spinner or accuracy battles.
So 1 hidden down, 1 hidden to go. This one is going to be a converted boss difficulty, and it's going to be a long fall of fruit onto a waiting platter perhaps. Sokan Masayoshi This is a lot shorter, 2.5 minutes in length, 170 BPM, very popular BPM so far in the round of 32. Circle size of 3.7, so a little bit more lenient than what we've seen in some other brackets, which fits nicely with kind of hidden, making dashes to and from objects that are sharp a little bit more lenient. But an approach rate of 8.4 kind of counteracts that somewhat, so you do need a little bit of low approach rate hidden reading ability to be able to score decently on this one.
Yeah, this map not being as specialized as Hidden 1 from Qualifiers, but still difficult enough to distinguish those that can play low AR Hidden and aren't as capable.
Yeah, I personally found this one a little bit more comfy than Hidden 1. For a low AR pick compared to obviously Hidden 1 that was AR 8 in the qualifiers pool, I think that anyone who had reservations about, oh no, more low AR Hidden will find this one a lot more kind of cozy and acceptable, I hope. There are some strong like large dashes where you finish one combo and then you have to dash kind of all the way to the other side of the screen, like that one there, that are 1-1 apart. And I think I remember there was one section, we might have gone past it somewhere in the middle, where there's like a half dash chain, where there's like a half hyper dash into a strong 1/2 dash, which is maybe not an edge, but is fairly close. So do watch out for that one.
Yeah, I actually missed on that pattern the first time I played. But with this map especially, something I really enjoy about it is the low density. You notice there's only about 700 combo, and about the first 20 to 30 seconds is built to build up this combo. So it is a very good nerve check map. If you notice your team is playing confidently or is able to hold combo on some of these more consistent maps, this is something that is definitely pickable.
If Hard Rock is a little bit more your speed, then they've got two of those coming up next. First, again, a specific and a custom. Ascendance making his second appearance, obviously DT1 also there, with Light Up My Love, Onokan feat. Moko. I've heard many different versions of this song. This one is quite cute. I like it a lot. 2 minutes of drain, 166 BPM. Circle size coming in tiny bit under 5 with Hard Rock applied, and an approach rate of 9.8, so not quite maxing out that 10, which we kind of typically tend to see from a lot of the specifics that would kind of try and go for an AR7 thing first up, so that you're not quite pushing that 10, and this is what has kind of been brought up this time around.
I'm cat jamming so hard right now. I love this song. And with the introduction of mixed mod, it definitely allows for more freedom when coming to maps that can have Hard Rock added to them. So I think it helps for this leniency in being able to have a AR 9.8 map, because of how we can kind of toy with Hard Rock mixed mod to provide something perhaps more difficult for those who are well versed in Hard Rock.
But also saying that, kind of for people who are maybe not quite so keen at Hard Rock, as long as there's kind of an ability to glue your eyes to the top of the screen and force yourself to be able to read 9.8. I honestly found this, aside from a couple of strong-ish dashes, but I mean, Hard Rock's to be expected, I found this one fairly cozy as someone who doesn't really play that much Hard Rock. So I think if you were wondering about, like, do we think we can play Hard Rock, or do we kind of feel like we won't have a team of 3 people that's up to the challenge for it, then this is a very good way of testing the waters with Hard Rock. But Fractal Dreamers Monolithia is going to be our second and final exclusive Hard Rock pick. This one, also, as we've kind of been following the trend before, is a converted OS difficulty. Is a little bit longer, 3 minutes and 18 seconds in length, so kind of fairly middling. We've had a lot of 4-minute maps and then a lot of 2-minute maps. This one is one of the only ones so far that's kind of really sat somewhere in the middle. 190 BPM, circle size of 5.2, so that's the circle size 4 with Hard Rock turned on. And we are going up to that approach rate 10 now, as we could kind of expect from a converted.
And with this pool in particular, out of a lot of the consistency picks, for me personally, I found this one to be a more difficult consistency, mainly because of it being Hard Rock converted. It can definitely generate a few more difficult patterns than what can be seen in what we've seen so far. A lot of short dash, some wiggles that get generated, like right there and there. It can be very, you could say a little greedy. If you feel confident that your team has the advantage, this is definitely a good map to pick.
Yeah, whereas Hard Rock 1 was kind of more focused on maintaining flow over large gaps, this one is a lot more of a kind of micro-intensive, small movements, some wiggling, kind of balancing these little streams. And in typical kind of Hard Rock fashion with these streams, you will see some of them get a little bit deformed. They don't flow like there. You can see one of them was split quite a bit off to the right and you need to do a little tap dash for it. It'll be very, very common, and you'll see a lot of it in this difficulty. And obviously, if you don't play a lot of Hard Rock, then it's very common in a lot of Hard Rock maps at kind of higher BPM, where streams get split up in sometimes interesting and sometimes very unhelpful ways.
Yeah, one of the very interesting things about Hard Rock is those nodes in particular could be moved by 1 pixel and it would not shift off to the right as much as it does. Very weird to think about.
Looking through a lot of the kind of Mappool discussion channels, Hard Rock has always been one of the kind of mods with the most activity, because you'll make something that you think is perfectly playable and then playtesters will say, like, this stream got absolutely butchered, like, you need to find a way to fix this, and we'll try this way, and we'll try that way, and things will kind of stubbornly not end up looking how you want them to with Hard Rock applied until you get to kind of the 6th or 10th or whatever variation. But this is the price that we pay in terms of getting cool custom maps created for the World Cup, which is very happy to see.
The work is greatly appreciated.
So, Hard Rock done also. We got 2 mod brackets to go. Remember, we got Double Time and Mix Mod. And note that Double Time will be slightly larger in pool size than the others, purely because Mix Mod will allow Hard Rock and Hidden. And Loki's Wizard's Tower, a custom map, is going to be our first Double Time pick. This one from Verti. One of the shorter maps, with Double Time added at 1 minute and 50 seconds. 263 BPM, so with Double Time applied, pretty quick, but not kind of necessarily insanely speedy. But similar to the map that we just saw, Hard Rock 1, this one's going to be more of a micro-intensive, kind of small movement, lots of anti-flow map, rather than kind of big, booming, sweeping distances and strong hyper dashes.
Yeah, this map itself could be classified as the speed specific, with its AR being a bit higher than the next map you'll see, and all of these kind of quick short dashes.
Yeah, I didn't mention that actually. Approach rate 8.3 goes up to a little under 9.9 with Double Time, which is a little bit spooky for kind of an opening stage in we've seen in previous World Cups. Usually kind of AR8 is just welded on there because 9.6, 9.7 is like relatively comfortable for people to get into learning Double Time, but pushing the boundary up towards that 10 can be a little bit challenging. But circle size of 3.5 hopefully makes that a little bit more lenient in terms of you can be a little bit slower on your turnarounds and still manage to catch things.
Yeah, and with there having be an additional DT map, it really allows for more versatility in the double time pool, which basically allowed us to have a map like this that was slightly higher AR, and that teams that have the double time advantage can look for rather than having sort of similar AR. Because as you'll see, both maps will be lower AR than this one.
Yeah, so we'll get on to the next one. So whilst we've been talking about how amazing custom maps are, sometimes there is either a want or a need to select something that has already existed. And in this time, Zootopia is going to be providing us with our second double time. Twice for the K-pop fans out there. Feel special. This is 2 minutes and 14 seconds if drained, so one of the longer double time picks we have. 194 BPM though is honestly kind of slow by double time standards, but it does make up for that more with kind of bigger hyper dash strengths, more big kind of sweeping distances, and a little bit of these tap dash patterns in between the sliders. Approach rate of 8, as we said, gives us like 9.67, so very comfortable double time approach rate, and also again circle size 3.5.
Yeah, due to the style of K-pop, you see some kind of interesting streams here, but as a whole, this map being less mechanically intensive than the one before.
Yeah, certainly more flowing than DT1, but don't get kind of too cozy with regards to platter control, because there are still some half dashes that are a little bit bigger than the others, especially in the Ki sections like here, and later on towards the end of the map as well. So if you're kind of autopiloting a little bit and not paying too much attention, you can get a little bit caught out by some of those strong dashes. And there are a few 1/3 patterns just kind of randomly, not randomly, but sprinkled in here and there that may catch you out if you are not paying attention as well.
Yeah, the map itself not letting up even at the end here. Very, very consistent.
So just the same as our other mod pools, we will only have the one convert. In this case, for double time, it's going to be DT3. And this one's going to be Happy Time wa Awaranai by Nanamorichu Gorakubu. This is a song that I think everyone who's played OS should be familiar with. Potentially not this version, but I'm not a huge enjoyer necessarily of this type of music, but I'm still very familiar with this song. 1 minute and 26 seconds, so by some margin the shortest map in the pool. 285 BPM does kind of make up for that though, although, so again, it is by far and away the quickest. Circle size 4, and approach rate 7.8, which gives us a fairly nice 9.5 for double time.
I'm just going to do my best to ignore the fact you said you don't like this song, but with this convert in particular...
Am I not welcome here anymore? It's not this song in particular, I am just not kind of an avid anime vocal, not another follower.
Really? CTV member that doesn't like anime songs? I don't believe it.
I'm in the rare minority, I know.
That's crazy. With this map in particular being very short, it does its job in having a lot of sort of tappy movement, and just a very, very speed pick as a whole in terms of getting it done very quickly. Can definitely catch people by surprise if it's picked in match, just because of how short it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of kind of standstill patterns and chains that will then rapidly transition into little wiggles and tap dashes as well, and then they'll go back to standstills as well. So it's very much like not a micro intensive, but you're always moving map. It's not a big flowing dashing map. It's kind of a stop and start creation in that. So mixed mod time. Let's see how this goes. Brand new to the Catch World Cup. Mappool selector Head Honcho, FD Fluorite's going to be providing this one to us. Mapletown Memories from Regal Theatre, an artist that they have mapped in previous World Cups. So as we said, there's going to be one player who is being required to play with no mod, one with Hard Rock, and one with Hidden. And this is going to be the specific and custom for that mod pool. 2 minutes and 24 seconds in length, 184 BPM. Circle size of 3.2 will be just under 4.2 with Hard Rock added, and an approach rate of 9, which will obviously be 10 with Hard Rock applied.
And I think it's a good thing to generally note that with mixed mod as a whole, because there's only one player playing no mod Hidden and Hard Rock, you will definitely see mixed mod as a potential step up. For example, Hard Rock 1 is certainly easier than this map on Hard Rock in particular, which is definitely intentional since there's only going to be one person playing this with Hard Rock.
Yeah, I think a kind of key reason why we haven't used mixed mod in the past is because we haven't had this kind of breadth of maps available to us, and we haven't had this much of a custom mapping scene where we can tweak and modify things to our liking. So you had the problem that maps that were chosen for mixed or free mod ended up either being really, really hard in either Hidden or Hard Rock, to the point where they were kind of very much above the dedicated Hidden and Hard Rock picks, or the no mod variant was kind of very plain and uninteresting and felt much easier than the no mod maps that were selected. So hopefully, and obviously we very greatly appreciate your feedback in this when you have played the pools and made your own opinions as to whether you think that we're kind of succeeding in that regard, or whether we still need to work on that. I just wanted to say that the use of the circle size 3.2 does add quite a bit of leniency with Hidden. So although there's a swing rhythm and lots of kind of tap dashing and oddly shaped sliders, it's not quite as punishing as you might be thinking to apply Hidden on this. One thing, I did actually test this with Hard Rock, but here, some of these repeat sliders at the end are kind of mandated to wiggle with Hard Rock, whereas a lot of the ones earlier in the map, I think you could probably just about get away without wiggling. I'll be interested to see how different people kind of attack those sections coming forward. So hopefully everyone's got their tiebreaker predictions ready, because we've only got one more left. This will be Mixed Mod 2. Will be a converted standard difficulty. Happy by Nardis. Not an artist that I was familiar with, but one I will be definitely checking out more of in the future, because when I played this I thought, damn, this is pretty cool. Similar to Mixed Mod 1, around 2.5 minutes in length, 128 BPM, so quite a bit slower. Circle size 4 obviously becomes 5.2 with Hard Rock applied, very kind of comfortable for no mod and Hidden still. And again, 8.7 with no mod and Hidden, and it goes up to 10 with Hard Rock. So a little bit of a more challenging reading difficulty with Hidden, but certainly not hugely spicy. I actually found this one pretty cozy with Hidden. Some of these streams with the sliders require you to kind of speed up, then slow down, then speed up again. You can't just like hold dash all the way through and avoid missing things. But otherwise, I thought this was pretty cozy, pretty enjoyable for Hidden. Didn't get around to playing this one with Hard Rock though, so if you have any comments on your playthrough with that, I'd love to hear them.
Oh, for sure, like you said, I think damn, this is cool is a good way to put it. And with Hard Rock in particular, some of these spacings can come off as more wide. The song itself is unconventional, so the gaps can be a bit scary to play. I know in a few of them I may or may not have dropped immediately after, just because I didn't know how far I needed to dash. But it shouldn't be a problem being in mixed mod, especially if you're a Hard Rock specialist.
Some some of these little tap dashes between sliders are quite tight, but thankfully the patterns after them are usually fairly simple, so you can kind of give all of your focus to hitting the tap dash and then get a little bit of a rest period, assuming you do actually kind of hit the stack, of course. I remember that wiggle kind of spooked me a little bit when I was playing with Hidden, but thankfully the circle size is big enough that it's not hugely punishing to do a kind of little tap left then tap right.
And my last thing to mention with Hard Rock is, especially this last quarter, is a massive choke point when playing with Hard Rock. So I'm very excited to see if that alone could turn the tide of the score by having people choke on Hard Rock, in that part in particular.
Okay, so round of 32 will be wrapped up with our tiebreaker, which will obviously be played in the event that the teams are tied on points with only 1 point left to win, and in no other circumstances, so you can't pick this normally. But our tiebreaker will be Sorowa Sekai o Koete by La Prière, another one of our featured artists, and this one has an oriental angle, 4 mappers collaborating on this one, so Auto Fanboy, Fluorite, who we saw on Mixbot 1, Souvenir, and Yumino Himiko or Examination. Haven't kind of followed that with their name change form quite a long time ago now. Typical tiebreaker fare, roughly 5-ish minutes, this one 5.5 in length, 173 BPM. Circle size of 4.5 is a little bit higher than I would maybe be expecting from a kind of tiebreaker usually testing consistency and all skills fairly equally, but that's interesting to see. And approach rate of 9.2, very common, very standard for overdose level difficulty.
Overdose level difficulty is especially a good term here, this being the sort of key point to introduce these slightly harder overdoses than seen in this map pool in particular, to help guide us to the next stage, actually going to be having overdoses. Sorry, I just spoiled that. Whoops. Also, something I would like to point out is the storyboard in the background. Nothing too fancy, but you know.
I think there's very few people that kind of consistently put out storyboards in Catch, and Himiko is certainly one of them. Very talented, puts in a lot of effort. Always love to see. Yeah, I mean, it's the tiebreaker. It's the showpiece, at least of this round. So yeah, always very happy to see that. Obviously, I played through the whole pool. I was giving my comments and feedback, and I really didn't have that much to kind of suggest about this at all. There were a couple of patterns where I felt like the flow stopped a little bit too abruptly, so we kind of buffed those. But sometimes, as a kind of modder or a BN, you look at a map and you're like, I feel like I should be trying to improve this map, but I don't really have anything to say that isn't super superficial, and it's always nice when you get something like that, and this map was kind of an example of that. That I was like, yep, this is good, just throw this right in there. I'm happy to have this with nearly no changes.
Song alone is worthy of being here. So happy we got this song.
So a little break here, which is always nice for kind of high pressure situations, as tiebreakers are want to be, where you're in the lobby and all the scores pop up and you can see who on my team is doing well and is our team doing better than our opponents. With 1/3 of the map still to go, you can either start panicking, hopefully not, or knuckle down, redouble your efforts and try and claw back a difference or extend your lead. But yeah, tiebreakers, as you know, are designed to kind of test variety of skills, as many as possible, to try and break a difference between two teams that are very evenly matched. And I think this generally does a pretty good job of that. It's got a good mixture of different types of flow. It's got a good mixture of snappings and like slider shapes. So some hyperdashes will be into vertical sliders, some will be into curve sliders, some will be anti-flow. There's a couple of those little kind of kick slider sections as well where you have to change direction very quickly after hyperdashes, so there's some bursting elements to it as well. All around very nice, tests a little bit of everything, and as I said, just very happy with this one.
And with Yumi no Himiko's part, we can see a ever so slight diff spike as he introduces these kind of quick turnarounds. And that could very well decide the tiebreaker, especially since they come after the break. If you are losing the mental game, it will not be good for you.
Fairly calm outro here, but with some slider art. Please try not to drop when your nerves are holding onto a combo. That would be very sad to see. But otherwise, all the hard work is done. Nothing really to complain too much about at the end here. If you've got that far on an FC, then well done. Hopefully you've secured your team the point that you need to win. And that will be all of everything for our round of 32 Mappool Showcase. So you'll see all of these maps, well, hopefully all of them, but some of them may not get as much love as others, in the round of 32 matches, which will be streamed, so don't worry. Qualifiers weren't streamed, but from now on, of course, matches will be streamed. But that'll all be from next weekend, so Saturday and Sunday. And if you want to find out when they are, please follow the OS Live Twitch account, follow us on Twitter as well, and you'll get notified of when we go live. And hopefully you won't miss any of the fantastic matches. Bear in mind that our teams are from all over the globe in all kinds of different time zones, so it may well be, depending on what the matchups are, that we end up starting quite early on Saturday, wherever your time zone may be. So please set your alarms, set your calendars. And yeah, I think that's going to conclude everything. Mr. 5Ws, do you have any comments for people who will be practicing the map pool? What do you hope they focus on? What do you hope to see? What advice can you give them going forward?
Ooh, I think the greatest advice I could give is practicing a lot of hard rock here. I think there are multiple things spread out through specific hard rock maps, like Hard Rock 2, and even some with mixed mod, that will be very beneficial to learn early on, so you don't forget in match, or when it comes to that.
Okay, so we'll be seeing that and hopefully so much more in our round of 32 matches next week. I think that's going to do everything from 5W and myself, JB Hyperion. So again, we'll be back next week, and hopefully you all will be as well. Please do follow us. And thank you everyone so much for watching, for chatting. Thanks for sharing your opinions and guessing the tiebreaker and giving us some feedback. If you're a player and you have feedback on the pool when you start practicing, please do give us as much helpful, constructive feedback as possible so we can make the pool and the future pools better. It's much better when we work together to make CWC and the game mode as a whole more enjoyable rather than kind of working against each other, because we should all be on the same side and we want everything to go smoothly and be more enjoyable. So hopefully to get to see that too.
And I personally will do my best to try and reply to all of it if possible.
Good to know. So there you go. You've been guaranteed that your feedback will be heard. But yeah, that'll do it. I'll stop rambling and we'll let you all get some sleep, because I imagine it's very, very late for some of you who stayed up to watch the showcase. It's midnight for me, and I'm in a fairly central time zone, so heaven knows how badly some of you need to go to bed. Please enjoy your week, and we'll see you all very, very soon.
Thank you for having me. Have a good night.